Hey y'all, it's Morris from Texas Goen Photography. So I shot these photos back in June of 1991. I'm documenting the final day of a cattle roundup on Matagorda Island, Texas by Joe Hawes and his family after they lost their 50-year fight against a wrongful seizure of their family ranch by the federal government. The photos are all only from the last day. I hope you stay and listen to the bone-chilling story of government abuse against this hard-working and honest family as you watch the roundup. I do want to note, none of these cows were struck with the wooden prods used in the roundup. They were used to push the cows and act as a last line of defense against any aggressive bulls. And believe me, there were some. The ranch was founded in 1839 by Joe Hawes' great-grandfather, and for over a century the ranch endured hurricanes, droughts, and yes, even blizzards before it was seized by the U.S. government for an airfield and bombing range on November 8, 1940. The U.S. Marshal in charge came to the unexpected Hawes family and declared, "You have 10 days to remove everything and vacate this land. It now belongs to the United States." The family was in obvious shock and did not want to leave. The blood, sweat, and tears went into this ranch, and this ranch had even claimed several family members' lives whose bodies were now buried on the island. Even with this government takeover, patriotic Hawes and multiple family members enlisted to serve their country in World War II. One of those family members was actually killed in combat. To me, this is both a devastating story for the Hawes family and a frightening thought for the rest of us. If the government can take a 100-year-old family ranch, what can they do to us? They obeyed and vacated in 1940, but they were promised they would get the land back. In 1944, after 4 years of lawsuits, the Hawes were finally offered $7 an acre. If they did not accept this offer, they would lose all gas and mineral rights. Not wanting to lose everything, they reluctantly accepted, selling the family ranch of 8,000 acres for $7 an acre for a total of $56,000. Wait, the government did not seize all the island. They did not take a ranch on the south end of the island owned by Dallas oilman Tody L. Wynn, whose cattle were allowed to even graze on the Hawes property during World War II. President Roosevelt had visited the Wynn Ranch as a guest in 1939, Hawes pointed out to the San Antonio Express News. In 1986, the Wynn Ranch sold for $13 million, more than $1,000 an acre, making the Hawes Ranch worth $8 million. And remember, they were forced to sell for $56,000. In hindsight, Hawes believes the government interest in Matagorda Island was piqued as early as 1929 when a Coast Guard station on the island became an officers' club. It wasn't plush, but it had great hunting and fishing, and the military sure took advantage of that. Between 1971 and 1973, according to the Corpus Christi Caller-Times, over 1,000 military personnel came to that island. Now that was just 2 years. Imagine the previous 30, how many people were on that island. The airfield was closed in 1975, but guess what? Still no return to the island. They were allowed to graze their cattle there, and a wildlife refuge was set up. Joe Hawes and his family continued to fight the injustice in every way they could for the next 50 years, after the original takeover of the land in 1940. They received orders that as of June 1991, they had to have everything off the land and would not be allowed back, ostensibly because the cows were hurting whooping cranes and hurting sand dunes. Prominent figures in local history of the island, Port O'Connor, where Hawes was born, the family feud with the government became a topic that everyone seemed to remember. One reason is Hawes would not allow anyone to forget. From presidents up and down the line, he sent letter after letter decrying the seizure of their property. Hawes said grazing can be done safely without hurting the cranes or the sand dunes. Cows were hurting the sand dunes. Imagine what the hunters have been doing for the past 35 years. Cattle have no impact on whooping cranes, according to John Stewart, park manager, in 2001. On the fateful day in 1991, Hawes invited the extended family to come to the family ranch one last time for the cattle roundup. Many accepted the invitation from across the state and the country. 4 generations were on hand for the last roundup. Talking with family members, I could easily tell the resentment and resignation they had for what the government had done to them. There wasn't that much joy there that day. It was quite somber. The 600 head of cattle were rounded up, put in trailers, then ferried to the mainland. The fight continued to get the family land back. In 2001, Hawes told the San Antonio Express News, "I'm going to die. That's what they're waiting for." On November 8th, 2008, the government finally got what they wanted. Joe Hawes passed away at 88.